Hello, fans of Let's Talk Chicago Bears. I'm back. How is everybody today? Well, we are we're more than halfway through the season, as you know. The Bears are 5-4, and Minnesota is 3-5. But we're going to talk about the game. It's on Monday night in Soldier Field. And as I told you a few weeks ago, I mentioned that now they're going to start playing. The next 5 out of 6 games is all division. 2 Minnesota games, 1 Detroit game, 2 Green Bay games, and I believe the oddball is the Jacksonville Jaguars. So the 5 games, as I told you, I don't care that Minnesota's 3-5. When we go over some stats, you're going to see why. It doesn't matter. They're gonna, and as at this point they're starting to play well, and we know the Bears are not. The problem, with the Bears, the bottom line is, I heard somebody talking about this on an NFL show yesterday. Um, and they said, they were talking about another team. Oh, they were talking about the Dallas Cowboys, and they're in the same boat as us. Their offensive line has just been, you know, decimated with injuries and COVID and no talent. And the Bears are in the same exact spot with their O line. Injuries, COVID on and off the list, and talent, lacking talent in the offensive line. And then we don't have a quarterback either. So without those two components, you're not going to the playoffs, and you're certainly not going to the Super Bowl. It's just not going to happen. So, and it's a shame. You know what? Because as we've talked about, we've got a kicking team and we got a defense. So, but we'll talk about that. So let's get to the stats and stuff, and then we'll do a little chit chatting. And I am going to then at the end talk about a rookie, Cole Kmet. So okay, Bears, as I said, 5-4. Minnesota's 3-5. Um, but okay, so the Bears passing yards are ranked 20th, and they've been averaging 235 a game, which actually those yards are actually a bunch of bull, because those yards are high because of those at the end of the game when the game's already over, where the Bears have already lost it. You know how teams go up and down a field when it don't really matter, where the stats just really help the players, not the team. So we're a little bit better than Minnesota. I was a little surprised by that, but um, so we're ranked 20th, they're ranked 25th. They've been averaging 221 yards a game. And a lot of that has to do in the beginning of the season. Kirk Cousins had some bad games in the beginning, had a lot of interceptions, but since then he's really settled down and started to play much better Kirk Cousin football. Rushing yards, not surprising, we're dead last, number 32 in the league, with only averaging 82 a game. Pathetic. This is the one that kills me. Minnesota is ranked third, where they're averaging 160 yards a game. Um, and we're going to talk about their running backs in a little bit. Points scored, that not surprising. The Bears are 29th out of 32 teams because they're only scoring around 19 points a game. And Minnesota is 12th with an average of 27 points a game. We got him on this next stat. So this is the only, we got him on the passing yards, but I told you that's just bluey, because we don't, those 235 yards, give me a break. They did that. They got some of those last week, when the game was already over, in my opinion. So anyways, points allowed, we're 7th, and we've only been giving up an average of 21 points, which is really good in the NFL, especially this year, because teams are scoring points. And I did hear, let me finish first. And then Minnesota is 25th with the points allowed, when they're averaging they're averaging 29 points a game. So maybe something will give there, and the Bears maybe can take advantage of that. We'll see. But I did hear somebody was saying that because of the penalties, holding penalties, and offensive pass interference calls are down, offenses are scoring more points. and he thinks that's because the officials were kind of told to make decisions right away and throw the flag or not. So they're overlooking holding calls. I'm sure if you watch football, enough football, you've seen holding calls that aren't being called, and it's just a fact. Penalties, you know where the Bears are. I bet you can guess. Dead last in that one category, too. They're number 31st, 32nd out of 32 teams. And they have lost 571 yards to penalties. Think about that. If we took those 571 yards and flipped them to productive offensive yards, Bears could have a better record. We know that. So the penalties have just been abominable on this team. And you know, if you watch me, you know how I feel about penalties. Minnesota is 10th in the league, and they've lost 311 yards to penalties. But the Bears, the thing about the Bears is, you know, it's bad enough to be last in the league, but those 571 yards, those have all come at such critical points. I cannot tell you how many drives. I wish I would have started counting from the beginning of the year how many drives were stopped by those penalties. Way too many. So, you know how I feel about penalties and Bears are. It's just lack of discipline, and that's on the players and the coaches. And you know what? It's to the point where I think the players need to start calling each other out and being like, "Come on, man!" You know, especially the veterans. They should not be getting penalties. All right, we'll get off that bandwagon. Let's talk about our quarterbacks. Let's do some comparisons. So Foles has been sacked 16 times. He has thrown 7 interceptions and has thrown 10 touchdowns. But several of those touchdowns have come again when the game's already over and it doesn't do any good. It just helps his stats at the end of the year. Oh good. It does nothing for the team, for the Bears. So that blows. Cousins has also been sacked 16 times. He has thrown more interceptions, but I told you, he threw 10 interceptions, and a lot of those came in the first 3 games of the season where they were just, I don't know what was going on with them, but he has since settled down, and I didn't look when those were thrown, but I'm almost positive it was more in the first 3 games. And then he has thrown 15 touchdowns. So still better than Foles, which is not a shock because Foles sucks. You know how I feel about Foles. I am not on the Foles bandwagon. Um, our running backs. This is going to be really interesting when you hear this. So David Montgomery, pretty much. Patterson has kind of been relieving him, but I'm not even going to mention Patterson's numbers because he's not the number one. David Montgomery only has 472 total yards with 1 touchdown. That is awful. Now, part of it's David's fault, part of it's the play calling, and part of it's the offensive line. So it's just a clusterfuck. Dalvin Cook for the Minnesota Twins has 858 total rushing yards, and he has scored 12 touchdowns. Then they've got a second back Matson, and he relieves him. He's got 322 yards, which isn't that much less than our sole running back, and he scored 1 touchdown. They have a total between these 2 running backs, Minnesota, 1,180 yards rushing so far this season. Are you freaking kidding me? So the defense is going to have their hands full on Monday, because these guys can run. And I do believe Dalvin Cook is number 1 and Derrick Henry is number 2 in the league. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. The Bears defense has a total of 20 sacks, and the Minnesota defense has a total of 16 sacks. So we've got them a little bit more on that. It's just our injuries. Before I started this, they hadn't really updated, and there was a ton of guys questionable. But Robertson Harris, he's our defense end. He was put on IR this week, so that really sucks. That was a blow we could not take, and it's just another blow. And there are so many questionables, but 9 out of the 10 times questionables do end up playing on, and today is only Friday. They're playing Monday. So I really do predict a lot of those questionables will be playing. So it's kind of hard to tell today what's going to be on Monday. But David Montgomery's in the concussion protocol, which that's the most important right now. And the fact that we are playing Monday may help him. I hope so. So, you know, as we've talked about our line, we can't run because we have no line. We have no quarterback. If you know how I feel, if Mitchell were healthy, oh, and Mitchell is the doubtful. If Mitchell were healthy, he should be back in. And I don't care what Nagy wants or not, but I do believe that this Foles experiment, as I told you a billion times on this show, it's not working. That's why he's been on 10,000 different teams. And he's a Statue of Liberty. He can't run. He's a pussy. He's afraid to run, and he's been making bad decisions. Nagy's probably going to get fired because of the Foles experiment and because we're not going to go to the playoffs. I mean, we may make it to the playoffs, but I doubt it. So, um, let's just put it this way: the future does not look bright for the Chicago Bears in 2020. So, being a Bears fan, this is when you really got to hunker down and be the Bears fan. I mean, if you're young, I'm finding the young people are definitely they're a little bit more fair weather fans than us oldies. I'm 62. I've been a fan since 1975. I've been around. I've seen a lot, and but I just love them. I don't know. There's something about football and loving them, good or bad. You love them. I mean, I love my baseball team, the Sox, but it isn't the same kind of love. I don't know why. I think maybe because football players and teams are just so close, and I love it. I'm just all about being close, having each other's backs, going through the mud for each other. You know what I mean? So, and football players do that. So that's probably why. But um, if the Bears had, let's just say the Bears had a halfway decent line and a halfway decent quarterback, and so that they could run and maybe get some passes, they could very well be 7-2 right now. Very well 7-2, and the future would be better, but it's not. So it's just it's pretty much over this year. But I would never. I don't miss games. It doesn't matter. I watch them anyways because again, I love football. I love football. I mean, starting tonight, I'll start watching. I watch all day tomorrow college football and Sunday all day till I go to bed. When my husband, you would say he was the football widower because he loved after the Bears games he would take naps the rest of the day and he was loving it because I was watching football. He was like, cool, she don't care what I'm doing. So, but something that I was talking to some people and I don't listen to Chicago radio because I'm in Vegas and I really don't want to because I want to make my show my own opinions and I've been doing that from the beginning of the year and if you've been watching me you know how I feel and I have not broken from that we're the Bears and what they should be doing. But I understand that from through a friend that the radio guys are calling for Nagy to be fired. I'm down with that. I think that Nagy could be a good coach. I still think he has a lot of learning to do. And I think and one of the biggest things is he's got to be way more open minded and willing to change, and he's not. He's a scheme guy. We all know that. And I've been saying it. He's a scheme guy and he wants his plays in no matter what. But what I've been saying is they don't fit the strength of his players. See, you need to be flexible. And when you see it's not working, so let's just look back at 2018 when Mitchell came in. 2018, Mitchell's second year and Nagy's first year. And Mitchell did very well. We were 12-4. We went to the playoff. If it wasn't for that fucking kicker, we would have advanced. We would have beaten Philadelphia. Come 2019, all of a sudden Mitchell looks completely different. Now this is Nagy's second year. He looks completely different. He wasn't doing what he did in 2018. And I started saying by week 2 to my son, Nagy's trying to make Mitchell a quarterback. He's not. He wanted him to stand in the pocket, look at the defenses, and throw from there. And Mitchell was more comfortable. He could do that, but I think he's more comfortable on the run and throwing if it gets down to it, taking off. And Nagy didn't want him doing it. So last year, you know, you could see it was terrible. He was completely different. So, but in Nagy's mind, it's because Mitchell sucks. No, Nagy, it's because he didn't fit your scheme, and you weren't willing to change to fit him. So then, when your love, your I swear you got a love gay thing going on with him, and I don't care if you're gay. I really don't. I'm cool with that. But those he must be in love with fools. I swear to God. So when he became free, he was like giddy. Let's get him. And in his mind, as I've said, he wanted him to play no matter what. So when Mitchell threw that one interception, boom, he was out. Now Foles has been terrible, and he should be taken out. And I'm sorry, I gotta. That's all right. Missed my phone. Um, but now Mitchell's hurt and he can't. So it really sucks. So um, it's going to be interesting. We have 6 games left. What the management's going to do up above. Um, if they fire Nagy, and again, and Nagy is a good rallier. He's really positive, so he's good at that. His biggest problem is he's not willing to change. He wants to be what he wants to be, and even if it's not working, he sticks with it. So we'll see at the end of the year if it's going to be 2 scenarios: either Pace and Nagy are going to get fired, or they're just going to fire Nagy and they're going to leave Pace, which is going to suck because if we keep losing, which there's very, very good likelihood it's going to happen, we could have a good first round pick. And then, oh my God, the fear of Pace picking another quarterback, is that not scary? Yeah. So I don't know what we're going to do. I heard somebody say, I don't know if it was on the radio or what, we need a complete overhaul. And no, we don't. We just need a coach and a GM. You've got the players. Well, yeah, we need an offensive line. So in off season, you got to pay attention to the offensive line, quarterback, and we need some more running backs. That's clear. So you know what? You know how it is been going, and so if the Bears, I'm going to pretty much say the same thing I did last week. If the Bears are going to win this game, they have to have 5 or less penalties, and those 5 or less, I'm going to be a little bit more specific because they only had 5 last week, but they were very bad 5 penalties. They can't have more than 5 penalties, and they can't be drive stopping penalties. Okay, and again, they need 2 turnovers to win this game. If they don't win the turnover battle and the penalty battle, done. It's going to be Minnesota's game. So let's see what happens on Monday night, right? I'll be rooting. I want to hear you people screaming because, that's the other thing. I think if not having fans in Soldier Field has hurt the Bears. I think a lot of football players thrive off of that, but particularly the Bears, especially under Nagy, they have just been all about the fans, and I think that's hurt them too, but there's nothing you can do about that. All right, let's talk about our rookie. We're featuring Cole Kmet today, number 85, our tight end, and I love this kid. I really, really, really want to see. This is another thing, Nagy using him more, and like my son says, well, maybe he's not, doing this or that, and that's why he's not in. Well, at this point of the season, it just use him. Let's start using him and see what he's got. And at this point, I think Mr. Mooney should be getting some more passes, and Kmet too. I don't really have a nickname for him. I'll have to think about that. But Cole was born, and he was first living in Lake Barrington, Illinois. All our stomping grounds. I was from the suburbs. Then they moved to Arlington Heights, and that's where he grew up. And Arlington Heights is next door to where I grew up. I lived in Prospect Heights. So definitely my friends were from Arlington Heights, so I'm very familiar. And he went to St. Vitus High School, which was kind of down the street from my house. His birthday is March 10th, and he was born in 1999, and he's 21 now. He went to Notre Dame, which most people probably know. So you know he's smart as all get out. He played football and baseball in high school and college, so which isn't uncommon. A lot of football players do two sports. A lot of them, it's usually football and basketball because some of them are so tall. But he was a pitcher, and then he hurt his arm, and so then he chose football. He was picked in the second round, and he was the 43rd overall pick. And I thought this was funny. He said when he was at the combine, and when you do the running around and they do all that, and then teams interview you and they ask you questions, and that's, he said the weirdest question he was ever asked was the team said, "Tell us a joke." And he was like, "Tell you a joke?" And they're like, "Yeah." And he's like, apparently, he said, I don't have a joke. So they moved on. He said they brought it up three more times to try to get him to tell a joke. He said, and it never happened. He goes, I'm not good at telling jokes. And he goes, I don't do that. And, telling jokes is an art. I am terrible at it. In my entire life, there was one really good joke I could tell, and I told it for a year straight. And anybody I saw that hadn't heard it, because it was the only joke I could tell, and it was funny. And I'm not telling it today, but I can't tell jokes. Now I have a brother, one of my older brothers. He could tell a joke like there's no tomorrow. He is he's good at it, and he knows it. This is kind of interesting. His dad went to my high school. He went to Hersey High School in Arlington Heights. Yeah. And so he went to Hersey High School, and then he went to Purdue. And then his dad did play in the NFL. He really was mostly on practice squads, and he ended up with the Bears. He played for the Bears. He was on the practice squad. And in 1993, Dave Wannstedt wanted him to change positions and go to the O line. And he said, "Well, do I have a choice?" And he said, Wannstedt said, "Well, yeah, you can, do what I'm asking, or you can leave." So he did what he asked, but he stayed on he really finished his career with the Bears, and he stayed on the practice squad until his eligibility ran out. And what had happened, he did suffer a bad leg injury, and that's really kind of what derailed his NFL career. But it is kind of cool that he was with the Bears, and Cole now is with the Bears, and Cole grew up in Arlington Heights. So I always love when guys from the hometown, their team, they end up playing for it. I just think it's cool, and I think it's a good omen because I really like them. Cole, this part I don't like. Cole is a Cubs fan. Boo. I'm a White Sox fan. But he is from Arlington Heights. So, most people out in those suburbs were all Cubs fans. I was probably the only Sox fan. So he has two brothers and a sister. And that's really it. I couldn't find too much more on him, but that's okay. And but so we're gonna have to think of a good nickname for him. But I like him. He's smart. He's big. I just think he's gonna get better and better and better. And hopefully next year when we have our line and we have a quarterback, we're gonna see this young man to really blossom, really, really, really blossom. So now we're going to get back to what's going to happen on Monday. Okay, so I pretty much told you what I thought. Um, it just sucks because we all love the Bears so much and we want them to do well, but it's just so freaking frustrating that we cannot get a quarterback. I see these teams, and year after year after year, they just get quarterbacks. It's like, why can't we? We always have a good defense, but come on, it's time. It's our turn. Do you not agree? We deserve a quarterback in 2021, and I'm accepting nothing less. I want a quarterback. I want an offensive line, and I want a running game. You hear me? Football gods, Santa, anybody, please. And I want to be able to sing you the Bears touchdown song on Tuesday. So I hope they win. But we'll see. So it's going to be tough because I told you they're playing their rivals, Minnesota, in their division. So it's anybody. It's really could be anybody's game, but I don't know. Nick Foles has got to come out and be that Nick Foles he was when he won the Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles. Now he won it with them. Everybody says, "Oh, he was so great." Yeah, he was. But remember, he had a really good team around him, a really good offensive lineman, and Jared Goff had won all the games up until he got hurt, which was the 13th game, 12th or 13th game of the season, and then Foles came in. So Foles didn't win all those games. He just came in at the right time, and that's why. So I don't know. What are you gonna do? So I'm gonna sign off like I always do. Thank you for watching. First of all, I really, really, really appreciate it. Make sure you tell everybody about me. Tell them I know what's going on with the Bears. I've predicted it all season. It's happening the way I said, and I'm fun, funny looking, because this face on a woman is just not that attractive. So, but I like to have fun and I love to talk to people. So thank you again. Remember to love one another, respect people, and smile at somebody today if you're out and about. We're stuck back in we're in a 2-week lockdown here in Vegas. Our governor threatened to shut everything down again if we do not lower our numbers, and he's given us 2 weeks to do so. So stay healthy. And as always, keep on rocking and rolling from Vegas, baby. I'll see you guys on Tuesday. And hopefully we got a W and I'll be singing a song. Bye-bye.